Hi, welcome to Chat Communications Happenings and Trends. Today we are discussing the Brett Kavanaugh situation. There have been new allegations since I think the last time we have spoke to him, and I've got to mute myself over here and just kind of walk everybody through that. So if you don't know, Brett Kavanaugh is the current Supreme Court Justice nominee, and they have, I think, expedited the vote and for Friday morning, and I think it wasn't scheduled until next week, but they went ahead and just tried to run up the vote so that if any other allegations come out, they are no longer relevant because the vote would have already taken place. Of course, you know, if that's the case, what we can expect then is that regardless of whatever happens or whatever revelations come out from Thursday's hearing, in which they will be speaking with the first accuser, at least Ford, whatever revelations are come out from that hearing, it won't be particularly relevant because it seems like they've already made their decision. At least that's my take on the situation. So I think some important things to note here, outside of these sexual misconduct allegations or sexual assault allegations and things like that, that according to some reports, his nomination in the first place was part of an agreement between the GOP and Donald Trump when he became the presidential nominee for the party. At least that's what some reports have been stating. They agreed to cover Trump's potential crimes, while in turn, Trump would blindly basically approve very right-wing agendas, including things about gun legislation, things regarding human rights, environmental deregulation, and tax reform. And so Kavanaugh has taken the stance of never questioning, or even if crimes are uncovered, of any president, although this is kind of weird considering his background with this, never removing a president for crimes they commit prior to being in office and also while in office, although he was the largest proponent of impeaching Bill Clinton. He was the primary person involved in that, in those proceedings there. But this should be particularly troubling outside of the hypocrisy, right? This should be particularly troubling considering that if we have any type of justice in the country, right, nobody, not even the president, should be above the law. And basically what Kavanaugh is stating, and what he has stated on the record, is that the president is absolutely above the law. Some other troubling things that I found about Kavanaugh is that again, outside of the sexual misconduct allegations and sexual assault allegations, because that is troubling in and of itself, that, again, the GOP was intentionally withholding information from the American people about Kavanaugh's record, his voting records, and his, I guess, his proceeding record as a judge with his decision while presiding over cases. And that's troubling because they did not want the American people to know how corporatist he actually is, which I think a lot of Americans would take issue with this and would actually oppose him regardless of the sexual assault allegation had they known about his record, which they did withheld until I think the very last minute. So that's kind of where we're at here. He does have some questionable financial dealings as well. That actually I think have gotten kind of slid under the radar. I don't know if we talked about this in a previous session or previous episode here, but there's some allegations about him basically purchasing $200,000 worth of goods, particularly in relation to, I think, a baseball game or football game. I'm not really sure which one. Or it could be basketball. I have no idea which one. One of the games. And nobody knows how he paid for it, considering that he's a judge. He shouldn't necessarily make this type of money. And there's no paper trail regarding on how he was able to purchase these items, in addition to the fact that he was able to make a substantial down payment on a I think, a over $1 million home, which is very expensive, obviously. Most people don't have that type of money, and arguably most judges don't have that kind of money. But he was able to make that type of payment without, again, any type of paper trail regarding to how he was able to get those funds. And so that, again, should be, people should have red flags about these things. They're all kind of circumstantial, but they should still take note. Now, let's getting into the sexual assault allegations. Again, more troubling news. So we've got the first accuser, Ford, who had to basically go into hiding because people have been so vicious towards her, as far as, you know, her allegations that she has levied against Kavanaugh. Now, one thing that people are going to argue, or have been arguing, is that, well, this is politically motivated and things like that. Well, this particular person has absolutely nothing to gain by coming forward with these allegations whatsoever. She just doesn't. In fact, it sounds like she has lost quite a bit. I mean, to have to relocate and to go into hiding because of the fact that she fears for her safety, that is a huge loss. And I don't think that people understand how that works. And it's alarming to me that people don't understand the benefits and the costs to things. And it seems like she did this at a great cost to herself and her family, even, that are also getting death threats sent to them and things like that. And people are downplaying this, of course, saying that she basically brought it upon herself, or, you know, if this was even happening, then she would have reported it to the police. Well, she has. And that's why she's gone into hiding, because she doesn't feel like they are doing enough to assure her family and herself safety. So there's that. So the initial charge that she has levied against him was that he tried to rape her. But it did not end up being a rape, because there was, she was able to get free or something along those lines. And so it ends up being, instead of a rape allegation, a sexual assault allegation, because he allegedly fondled her and held her down, covered her mouth so she couldn't get away, she couldn't scream for help and things like that. So again, this is troubling. That's a big deal. That's a big allegation to levy against somebody, of course. And it's pretty detailed. I would imagine that if usually when people fib about things, they're not as precise in detail about the situation by any means. And it would be terrifying if I was in her position, and if that had happened to me. And I think that we need to take these allegations very seriously, and it seems like not a lot of people are taking these particular allegations seriously enough. And there's a new allegation too, where he allegedly stuck his genitals in somebody's face, and it resulted in contact between this female and his genitalia. And again, that's a pretty serious allegation, and I think it is still while he was at Yale for, I guess, undergraduate or something along those lines. Apparently there was a lot of heavy drinking, and so to this person's credit, again, I don't think she has much to gain from lobbying these allegations against Kavanaugh, particularly because she admits that she was not only drinking at the time, but she says that she could be wrong with who did this to her. So if you are going to allege anything, I would assume that you would say, yeah, I definitely 100% know. Like if it's fake, right? If this is a fake allegation, yeah, I definitely 100% know it was him no matter what. But she does admit, like, I'm not 100% sure on this. I was drinking and I was very intoxicated during this time. I just know that this happened to me. I believe it to be him, and it was embarrassing to me. And that's why I didn't really come forward. But there are, again, just like in Ford's instance, there are people that are corroborating her allegations as well. saying like, well, you know, during around the time that this happened, she did tell me. But she also has people that are saying that no, she didn't say anything about this. And so it's conflicting. And I think that this needs to be taken seriously, in that it does need to be investigated fully. I would assume you wouldn't want somebody in the highest court in the land to have had any type of dealings with sexual misconduct allegations or anything along those lines, to have actually partaked in these sexual assaults. I would make that assumption. And I would assume that if you were being accused of this, you would want an investigation just to clear your name. I would, most certainly. And but it's boggling to me that, you know, you have a substantial part of the country that just assumes that people are doing this to be malicious. Now, I think Janet, Lauren, and I were discussing. Well, I wasn't really saying anything, but they were discussing this Mike Avenatti issue. Well, he apparently may be representing a third person that may come forward with additional allegations. And this third person has apparently a government security clearance. And so it may be likely somebody that has worked in a professional setting. So this may be outside of college, that may have additional things to say, or additional allegations against Kavanaugh. Unfortunately, there's also been some type of attack that he has received from just 4chan trolls saying like, we made this up, this person is totally fake, or something along those lines. Of course, the credibility of 4chan losers versus an attorney that is representing at least 2 females that are currently dealing with their own sexual assault cases is, you know, I would more likely believe the attorney over these 4chan people, these anonymous 4chan losers. What's up?
Can I add in? I just want to add in on how the second accuser, I think her name is pronounced Ramirez. I'm butchering that name, but anyways, they played a drinking game, and the game was basically you point to a person and you tell them to drink, and every single male in the party picked her and got her to drink. And so by the time the attack happened, she was obviously like just, you know, drunk as hell, because this game had been going on for a long time.
Right.
And she was picked almost every single time. So, like, I mean, she was just in a drunken, like, almost fucked up state, and they took advantage of that. Like, they purposely got her fucked up and then did that shit.
Right.
So,
and I just want to add there, like, that doesn't, like, so whether it was him that put his penis in her face or not, he was part of it. And that right there, I'm sorry, like, it doesn't, you don't have to be assaulted by being touched. You don't have to. Like, you think of a flasher, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, that's what they were doing, is, you know, whoever was flashing their genitalia at her. And it's just like, I know way too many people that have had like some random weirdness like that happen. So especially in that group situation of the guys, like when they I don't know, that whole thing, like I have to tend to believe like she knew who was at the party, and if none of them stopped it,
I mean, there are people at parties.
This is part of the additional allegations, though, that Kavanaugh was a part of a group of men that intentionally got women drunk so that they could assault them and or rape them, like a gang rape situation. Yeah. That's also an additional allegation against him as well.
That's his fraternity, or the New Yorker article called it a secret society. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The secret society was also nicknamed Tit and Clint, so that's yeah, that's what they were doing. I read in the article one of his former friends from college described him as being shy ordinarily, but when he would get drunk, he would get aggressive and belligerent, and that seems like the total personality type that would, do outrageous things when they're drunk and use that as an excuse.
And then there was the lady that actually was one of the 65 women that signed the thing. And then she found out when, more and more stuff was coming out, she looked at what they had written about her in, talking about the Renata, or Renee, I don't know how you pronounce the name, but that like alumni, like, oh, we all had sex or something, went out with this girl. Like, even in their yearbook in high school, they had to like just make that. I mean, they had to put it in print. Like, they had to have it there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, he definitely has. Okay, say it wasn't him. I mean, obviously his friends are predators too. Why wouldn't he have stopped them? Right?
I mean, some of his friends have came out who were part of that fraternity and said that their behavior was disgusting, or that they're ashamed of it, and that they remember what he'd done and they participated in it. I mean, like, members of the fraternity or whatever have come out and said that their actions were really misogynistic and wrong. Just flat out wrong.
But I'm saying at the time, if you're a person, even a female, and you're watching this happen, or you're egging it on, or you're not doing anything to stop it, or even just walking away, I mean, that's the coward thing to do, but even just walking away from it and not being a part of it. But no, but just to be there and watch this. So he's at least responsible for his actions of egging others on to do. If he didn't do this, I mean, there's enough people coming out saying, yeah, he was at these parties. Yeah, these are things that that happened. Blah blah blah. He was there.
Well, and I think the most damning
okay. So first of all, this is not a criminal case, right? This is a job interview essentially, and so, but if it were, let's just hypothetical, if it were, and people have been accessories to crimes, people get charged as being accessories because they don't stop it, they don't report it, they have a hand in doing it. So even if he was just sitting back and watching, he would be considered an accessory to a crime. The crime being a sexual assault or rape. And so even if he said, yeah, I was there, but I had nothing to do with it, you were there, you were an accessory, and you didn't report it. Somebody that should be upholding the law, it's your job to report a fucking crime.
Well, he wasn't a judge then, but what's that law in New York where if if you're a bystander and you don't do anything, you can be convicted? Like, New York and several other states have that law. It was actually a plot of Seinfeld on the final episode. But I think the most damning part of the second accusation is that after it happened, one of the idiot dudes ran down the hallway screaming, Brett Kavanaugh just put his penis in Bethany's face, just put his dick in Bethany's face. And several people remember a guy screaming that down the hallway.
Right.
Like, that's pretty fucking damning, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, no, that's all fake. It's all fake news. Sorry. It doesn't count as evidence, even though eyewitness testimony always counts as evidence.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should also mention about how,
because I'm a political hack who basically sides with whatever my side does and likes, I'm going to approve of. And then if, their side does it, I'm going to say, shame on them. There's enough evidence to support that you did do this. I just don't understand that mentality.
I think
but another thing,
the mentality's been there for so long. I mean, for centuries, guys got away with this stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're so baffled that they're being called out now. They're so it's driving them crazy that they're being called out because they're like, but everyone, you know, like this, and it wasn't everyone. There was groups of guys that did it. Because I can tell you, you know, I can tell you even from one of my experiences, it was one guy that pulled me into a room, and two guys came in and saved me. I mean, it's like there are bad people everywhere. There's bad guys, bad girls, bad everyone, right? So to sit there and say like, oh, but that's just boys being boys, that's bullshit. That you can't. We're never going to get rid of the rape culture. We're probably never going to get rid of rape culture, anyways. But I mean, we're never.
I just want to mention how much like the right is like scrambling over this. Like, there was a CNN panel recently with 5 women, all who happened to be women of color, but all Cuban women, who basically said the same talking points. Like, one of them literally said, like, what 17-year-old boy hasn't tried to do this? And frankly, I know many of my friends who haven't tried to rape someone when they were 17.
Well, I said,
and also, but anyways, the panel went on like that with them giving the defenses, like very morally deprived defenses of him. And then after all this was said and done, it turns out like someone did some research. And keep in mind, during this panel that CNN held, it was these women were labeled as just a Republican voter.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that once someone did some research into it, because, you know, they have the panelist's full name, like right there. They did some research into all the panelists' backgrounds, and every single one had history with the GOP. Like, one was a former candidate from this year who was invited onto this panel. Another one was just like they were all GOP operatives. Like, one held like a fundraiser for Ted Cruz. Like, they were all involved in like major GOP things, and like they were straight up like right-wing operatives that CNN fucking allowed on. And
so once again, you're in a situation where CNN failed to do their research, which apparently it sounds like it was insanely easy to do, Lauren, right?
Yeah. One literally ran for a House seat this fucking year, and she lost her primary. And it was also strange that all the women happened to be like, I might be wrong on this, but at least most of them happen to be like Cuban American. So that's interesting too, that they pulled like women of color into defend this man.
Say CNN knew this, okay? CNN
Honestly, I don't think CNN knew. I think CNN is so fucking lazy that they didn't know. Like,
in this day and age, they're going to be lazy about shit like that. That's ridiculous.
I mean, CNN is notoriously lazy.
If they they should have said something up ahead, going like, okay.
I know, but like what I'm saying is that CNN is notoriously lazy. Like, CNN is notoriously lazy with their research. Like, they get pumped like all the time, basically.
Yeah. They just go with whomever's most easily accessible.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's how they had access to these people, because they were GOP operatives.
Right.
Well, they only care to get views. They don't care about the truth. I
don't even think it was that. I just think they were too lazy to go out.
Well, anyways, so they're just like, whatever.
I just think they were too lazy to go out and recruit like actual people off the streets and actual Republican voters, and just pulled out a list of contacts, you know?
Yeah.
I think,
so this is kind of like off subject, but I wonder how often they get actual real voters, because again, the media, the mainstream media, they're just like, oh, who do you know? Let's get them.
No, most of their panels are regular people. This seemed to be like, I don't know if they got played or what, or if they did this on purpose. Did this not on purpose, but on laziness. Because like, there's a part of me that doesn't believe that CNN's malicious. It's more like they're incompetent and lazy, which results into being malicious.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was just an interesting side note. Like, these Oh, and there's also women for Kavanaugh. Like there's a giant bus tour going around.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like one of those giant buses too, like those huge air conditioner fancy buses, and there's only like 17 people on them.
And they're not all women either, right?
No, like literally it's divided into half by men.
Wow.
But they call themselves women for
And in the picture, when you see the picture of the women posing, all the men are kind of like hiding in the background.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to add some more information. And so a recent, an article a bit ago came out by kind of an opinion piece, obviously an opinion piece, by someone who was, I guess, somebody who had worked with Kavanaugh, and she described herself as a Democrat, essentially. She gave him a glowing review, basically, and they published this in I don't know, one of the mainstream media outlets, review of Kavanaugh, where he is, of course, taking a picture with his basketball team, his all-female basketball team in the background with him, saying, you know, he's such a great person. He will uphold the law. You know, he has substantial integrity or unwavering integrity, and all of these things. Well, come to find out that this Democrat who did this also told people that if they told people that were looking into, I guess, interning with him, that one, he only selects females that are of like model aesthetics, that are particularly beautiful, and she would prep them on how to secure a internship with him by, you know, saying certain things and giving them certain pointers on how they should dress and all of those, you know, very questionable things that you know, and dressed like in a very kind of sexually appealing manner. This was later reported by a few media by a few media outlets about this person. So I think that's really surprising, because the case was that it's not really an individual issue; it's a elitist issue that the elites will always cover for each other, even if they have differing political ideologies. And honestly, I don't think that they do have that different political ideologies. They may say that they do, but when it comes down to it, you know, they're going to protect their own. And this particular person was of the elite class, so she did a disservice, to say the least. If these reports are true, yikes. I can't imagine being prepped in that manner. I'm very fortunate.
So the women that do it, to me, to me, yeah, the act is horrible, but you know what? Men are just horrible. Sorry, guys, but men are just horrible. But like for a woman to prep a girl, or in my case, come into a room where I'm trying to get away and I'm yelling and tell me to shut the fuck up. Yeah, those women are just, they're disgusting. Like how do you do that?
I think that it's a matter of, well, this is normal. They have normalized it in some way. Maybe it's because they were prepped themselves. And so it becomes a normal thing, a tradition, if you will, that gets passed down from generation to generation of this class of people. Mm-hmm. Because this is, again, how they perceive that men behave. But in the real world, men don't necessarily behave this way. They don't. I think that that this is an abnormal way that people, I guess, normalize it. And I don't know. Maybe it is normal. Maybe it's more normal than I think it is. I mean, I just hope that it's not.
I think it happens a lot more than people are aware. I know a lot of women like that have not come forward as said stories, and just don't want the attention and stuff. And yes. I know a lot of women that have like more than one incident that had happened to them. And in my case, I think it was, you know, like I was shy and I probably was primed to just be prepped for something, you know, I probably was because of my personality back then. And because I was shy and surprisingly quiet, I think that, you know, I was looked upon in that way. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just weird to think think that another woman could actually be okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I get, you know, there's times where you were saying like they were prepped or they were, so I mean, maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe prepping, you know, even if a woman doesn't, like, you make it normal for them, you make it seem okay through their teen years, then they're okay with doing this because,
I mean,
they may not have ever been sexually assaulted, but they were kind of groomed to be okay.
I mean, there are women who believe that men being, you know, being violent in a sexual way, some women think that's normal. And they'll especially excuse it when they're a teenager because like puberty or whatever, as if that's an excuse. Because again, I've known several guys that I'm still friends with who went through puberty and they didn't rape or even attempt to rape someone. Right. But there are people who just think it's normal for a guy to do violent sexual acts when they're younger. And
well, I think the interesting aspect of this whole grooming process that this woman was basically doing is that this was with Brett Kavanaugh already being a judge. This was well out of high school at this point, and these were 4 people that were trying to get interns with him. So they themselves are well out of high school at this point. I'm assuming that they've secured some sort of credentials or law degree at that point to secure an internship in his office with him. These were for legal purposes. These were incoming attorneys and things like that had just graduated. So they should have been well out of high school at that point. And they do know that, I don't know, I guess this is just how it is, right? This is very disturbing behavior, to say the least. And is this how all of these elite people act? And is this why it's so normalized in our culture that boys will be boys, locker room talk, and all of that noise? Because this is how they behave, even though normal society doesn't necessarily behave this way. I don't know.
They're in a bubble. They're in a bubble, and they think they can get away with. They think they can get away with it.
They do. That's why they think they can get away with it, because they have, and they do, and they continue to.
And they give themselves like excuses in their own head. Like like I'm sure when they're saying that they want a woman to look a particular way, to intern for them or to act a particular way, they think, okay, well, this is my brand, and I need this person to be under my brand, so I can't. And until you don't look at women in that, like every single woman in a sexual object, you objectify them every single time, then it's going to be there. Like the guys are going to think, because they come up with their own excuses. Like, I mean, I'm sure at some things that are coming out, Kavanaugh's like, no, that was innocent. I really didn't do anything. Da da da. You know what I mean? Like the thing about the alumni thing, the Renee. I mean, that to put that, like, it's not even a girl that went to your school, but even if it was a girl that went to your school, that's bullying. That was like slut shaming. Like trying to say that she was, that she slept around. And she said, like, I didn't even go on a date with him. Mm-hmm. And it was probably just like, oh, well, Joe and John and Mike said that they had sex with her, so I'm going to say that I had sex with her, which is, it's wrong.
Absolutely. Now,
I mean, it seems like Kavanaugh got so blacked out drunk and just was fucking irresponsible and shit that he might actually not remember the horrible shit he's done.
That's probably another
which is still not an excuse, because it's like,
because he shouldn't be drinking then. If you get to that point, and
And clearly his friends were aware that he got really aggressive and out of control when he was drinking.
Absolutely. All right, so I wanted to kind of focus now on the excuses, right? The justifications. First being that Kavanaugh, his excuse, well, I was a virgin and I remained a virgin. So that's a disturbing excuse because it's almost as if he's stating in order to have consensual sex doesn't exist. Is that what he's saying? Because if you're not a virgin, you therefore rape people?
I mean,
do sexual assault against people? What is it? What is that?
I mean that doesn't even make sense because in these allegations, they didn't say that he had sex with them. They said that he exposed himself or tried to do something, and then it didn't work out because the person fucking ran away or whatever. So that's not even a valid excuse because this doesn't even mention sexual intercourse.
But the problem with that excuse too is that it if you flip it kind of and look at the other side of the coin, what it's saying is if unless you're a virgin, or I guess if you're not a virgin, if you've had sex, therefore that sex was non-consensual, or you are therefore a sexual predator.
I don't know.
That's fucking nuts. I can't believe that anybody would accept that excuse.
That just seems like a haphazard excuse that he threw out.
Oh, absolutely.
Doesn't seem really thought out at all. Because it's just even when you look at it that way, it doesn't even matter because it's just a nonsensical excuse. Because again, this didn't involve sexual intercourse. This involved him holding a person down and trying something, and the second time exposing himself to someone.
So maybe he's making this excuse because there are other allegations out there.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's something I didn't consider, Janet. There may be existing allegations of actual rape out there, and so
there might be. God knows what will come out, in the next even few days.
Yeah, it's got to be the next few days because confirmation's been expedited to Friday. So hopefully we'll kind of get a better understanding of what these.
I don't normally do the whole "you should call your senators" thing, but you should try it. People should try to call Lisa. Correct me if I get her name wrong. Murkowski and Susan Collins. People should seriously try to pressure that because they could literally overturn the vote.
And not do threats, of course. I think there have been some reports, and of course, honestly, conservatives do overplay things and say, oh, because somebody is a Democrat, they called me, therefore it was a threat, which is not the case.
Right, but you can leave a message shaming.
This is a very frustrating situation, and I really don't know what to do, honestly, outside of definitely calling those two women.
Yeah,
and being very, 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 very fucking nice about it.
Well, you can also shame them. Shame does have a place in this.
You have to do it right, though.
It has to be public, though.
No, it can be in a call.
There's too many people that will call and they will get aggressive and get angry.
Yeah,
that's not get you anywhere with them on you trying to convince them of something. If they already did something and you call them, whatever. I don't care what you say to them then. But when you're trying to convince someone, you gotta be.
There's a way you can shame someone without being aggressive. You can just be disingenuous and call in and say you're a woman. I thought you represent this. You can bullshit your way through and still shame them and be nice about it. Even if you don't believe the words you're saying about, you can call them a good person and say I feel like you're a good person. If you confirm to vote Kavanaugh, that changes my view.
Lost my trust and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could go into the whole, if a woman calls, you could go, I'm a woman, you're a woman. Aren't you supposed to protect women? There are lots of ways to do this, shaming politely.
Right. Jake Smith his questions, why do we only care about these things when Trump got elected? That's not true. That's not true. People cared about this shit beforehand. Unfortunately, the media didn't report about these things also. And so had they reported this about Kavanaugh, because I think he was confirmed as a lower
court be in the
justice
situation about
too,
Trump.
I think that people would be quite perturbed by this situation. I know I would have been. And so I think that this is a false narrative and a false dichotomy to make, because people don't have control over what the media does a lot of the time. And if the media doesn't report on it, then people just don't know. And so if people didn't know under the Obama administration, let's stop blaming people, okay? Let's stop blaming them, because they do give a shit about this stuff. They do care about it. It's just, if they don't know about it, how can they possibly have a problem with it until they know?
The goal should be
so let's just stop this.
The goal should be to inform those who do care now.
Absolutely. And maybe this whole thing under this new administration will start, people are starting to question more of the media's role too, which is lovely. It's a lovely progression, because people are starting to see like, hey, why didn't the media tell me 3 years ago about Yemen? People are starting to see this. And I'm sorry, Janet, go ahead.
I've been seeing that a lot more, and not even just like, I mean, just like even my mother, I was like, just saying something to her. She's an 80-year-old woman, and she was kind of like, yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Like, they're not really reporting on this stuff. Like, I'll mention something to her, and she's getting frustrated. Like,
absolutely.
And to go back to the Obama thing, it's like, who cares what they did in the past? Like, the important thing is that we have people who care. Like, if you shame them for not knowing shit from the past, you're going to lose them immediately. And like, you're not doing anything but alienating people and making yourself feel better by shaming them.
Yeah, I agree with that perspective wholeheartedly, which is why I think now I really do think that people are starting to question the media's role in a lot of these things, whether it comes with the whole Trump nomination process and the fact that there was a media blackout on some certain candidates, and the Yemen crisis, and now this, and sexual assault. In fact, these allegations were lobbied before he was even nominated as a Supreme Court justice. And I think that these things are very important, and we need to start questioning the media's role in all of this, because they have done a disservice to the American people, and basically they do serve the government. They're not interested in informing the people, and hopefully we can start seeing them do a better job. And that there are other independent media sources coming out of this as well. And also that's why a lot of you are here, so that, we can tell you some of our perspectives and things like that without sugarcoating or hiding it by any means, obviously. But yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So on the Feinstein thing of her waiting, like how much blame would you give her for her waiting? I don't understand where, how did she get the information? And if she didn't get it directly from Ford, then I can see why she might have waited. I don't know. But only that, like devil's advocate, but I don't understand what was going to come out of that.
So from what I understand about that particular situation, and any of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, is one, like you said, Janet, she didn't have the firsthand knowledge of it. She had secondhand, and that this could be a thing. So as far as I understand, her office started investigating it, and that's why she held off and didn't say that. In fact, there are multiple different offices that are currently undertaking an investigation of these allegations. And these offices obviously are unnamed and have not come forward as to who's the senator of those particular offices. But I think her office is one of the few that are investigating these allegations, and did begin to do so until it was reported that she didn't come forward with it. But yeah, I think she was in a bind because she did not have initially that firsthand knowledge.
Yeah. So in a way, like I kind of understand why she waited, especially if they were investigating it on the back end. And it's almost like, it's almost like you think a journalist, as a journalist, you wouldn't want to come right out and be like, oh, this is true because you haven't investigated it. But, I don't know. I'm like on the fence on how I feel about that whole thing. Like
I think it kind of, the process makes sense since it was like secondhand information and she wanted to investigate it. Like, I think that's reasonable, honestly.
But how long would it also have taken to try to get in touch with Ford directly? 3 months? No. I you know what I mean? Like that's the other thing on that is like the time.
Well, I just know that when you collect evidence and things like that, it can take a substantial amount of time, and she's probably wanting to corroborate some of the information too. And of course, that involves, hey, getting in touch with people, and then them having to get back in touch with you. It takes some time, and she may even have uncovered additional women with additional allegations in the process. And so she may have her office may have decided, hey, let's gather up all of this information and present it at once as well.
Yeah, I mean, people need to remember that there is a process, an established process for these things. And like to say it's all her fault, that's not completely fair, because there's a process that you have to follow. Like, you can't just come out swinging with this information that you haven't verified.
Right.
Yeah, because then you're like a Trump or someone like that would.
I mean, it's really bad, and you lose political capital because of it.
Lori Out says she waited until the week before vote of confirmation. Fuck that. Okay. Well, not entirely, because the vote for confirmation wasn't actually scheduled yet. But it is now, and it actually got sped up to this Friday. So it wasn't entirely that's not entirely true.
I think that's one of the things that the GOP wanted to spin out. Like, oh, they were waiting. They sat on this and they were waiting, and that's what they probably knew all along. She was investigating it,
right?
And they're probably
there's no way her GOP colleagues didn't also know that she was investigating this. There's no way.
Right. I mean, if you want to. I just don't think that she's entirely blameworthy in this instance.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I think
I have no love for this senator whatsoever.
Same, but I think this is a moment where, like, people are angry at Democrats and want to blame them for everything. But that's not the case here.
She made mistakes. I mean, mistakes made that, maybe she needed to have it come out before, or maybe she needed to contact other people, or if she needed help on doing the stuff, she needed to get more senators involved and stuff like that. I'm sure there was tons of mistakes along the way. So, I'm sure, you could put a case there, but I think a lot of.
I mean, I don't understand why people are so willing to blame Feinstein instead of blaming, the fucking right-wingers who are rape apologists and fucking fascists.
Or Kavanaugh. Let's blame Feinstein instead of blaming Kavanaugh for doing
that doesn't make sense at all.
Right. Now, I mean, I don't have any love for Dianne Feinstein.
No, I think she should be voted out, but this is it's kind of absurd.
But yeah, and again, while there are reports of other Democratic senators' offices doing an investigation right now, they still haven't come forward. Yeah. So we don't know who they are, and the GOP is trying to use this as to their advantage, and so we just need to kind of just look at this in a more analytical mindset.
You really do just gotta look at the Senate process and that these things take time.
Right.
You
And
know?
they do take time, unfortunately. And yeah. And as Lauren was stating, that they do undergo a process. And that, again, there is probably collaboration with other senators' offices that are doing the investigation as well.
I mean, again, there's no way. There's no way that Grassley or, you know, anyone on there didn't know that she was doing the investigation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they obviously, of course, they knew. And they actually, their offices may also be the ones doing additional investigations. So I just wish, you know, I don't think that she was intentionally withholding it for any other reason, but for the investigation purpose. I don't think that she was doing it to be like trying to brush the allegations under the rug by any means. I don't think that that's the case, which I've heard as one of the arguments.
Yeah, I mean, she's a lot of things, but I don't think she's that stupid to you know, purposely hold back on this allegation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you know, I think that if they had the information, like they had the information, and you know, easy to corroborate the whole thing, then it would have been out a lot sooner.
If she had been able to release it earlier, she would have, because that benefits her.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, like, come on. This is like, you have to think about this strategically and also look at the process that is set by the Senate. Like, she can't just go and say, fuck that, I'm going to do what I want, you know? Like, and again, I don't have any love for fucking Dianne Feinstein, but like, let's fucking be real and analyze this from a realistic perspective.
Yeah. So, Amanda, on the was it before we got on live that you were mentioning the thing, the deal, like the GOP and Donald Trump doing this Kavanaugh little?
Oh, I mentioned that while we were during the program.
Yeah. Oh, you did during the program. I wasn't sure if it was during. I was like, oh my god, did she do it during the program? Because that's why I wanted to bring it up. But I mean, like, in that whole sense, like, they probably were planning this anyways, like to try to put the blame on Feinstein. Then, do you know what I mean? Like, they probably already knew she was looking into it, and I'm sure, they were saying, okay, well, this is how we'll spin it. We'll kind of say, you know, because you want to what their purpose is, to take the spotlight off of Kavanaugh and put the spotlight on anybody else, and that's how they get away with doing this stuff. And then so they're going to go after the victims. They're going to go after the lawyers that are covering the victims. They're going to go after the senators that are against them. And meanwhile, it's not ever coming from like Kavanaugh's little group. It's coming from other GOP and, you know, or silently in the background, you know, starting these stories. So it's you have to. It's all a game to them. You have to like take it that way. Like, I get the Dems are horrible, and the Dems are horrible in certain ways that a lot of us don't view the GOP. Like, the GOP is just trash. It's just trash. But the Dems, because they were supposed to be on our side, it's more like there's a betrayal there. And I think that we tend to, you know, sometimes side with the GOP on certain things because of that.
Because we're angry with the Democratic Party.
Rightfully,
sure. And rightfully so, by the way. Yes.
I mean, I certainly don't downplay the GOP and the harm they represent. Mm-hmm. And it kind of disturbs me a little that people want to focus on Democrats more than the fascist party that is currently in. Like, I understand, like, you should absolutely criticize Democrats and liberals. I do it all the fucking time. But you need to realize that the greater threat here are like literally white supremacists and nationalists in office. And like, I don't know, it just disturbs me to see that like people will minimize what Tucker Carlson has done just because he said, maybe we shouldn't go to war. And like the only reason he doesn't want to go to war is because he wants to spend that money doing horrible domestic things to poor people and immigrants.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Like, it's really disturbing when I see progressives. I don't consider myself progressive. I'm a fucking communist. But it's really disturbing to me when I see fucking progressives try to downplay Tucker Carlson and try to make the Democrats look more evil in comparison. Because, like, yeah, they're both bad, but you got to recognize the nuance that
right. I think that's
not as bad.
That, Lauren, that perspective gives credence to a lot of more centrist or identified centrist Democrats.
I'm not saying go vote for
look
these
at
people.
how, you know, the far left or the progressive left, they're just, what was the tweet that I saw? They're parents without the burning crosses and
no, that's not what I'm saying.
Without the hoods, burning crosses.
I'm saying that progressives tend to get so angry with Democrats that they focus on that and then they minimize what the Republicans are doing and what the right is doing.
That's my point, that gives credence to that argument a lot of the time because they see that minimization or justification of somebody like Tucker Carlson, right? And they think that, like, oh, they're aligned with them because they're not criticizing, they're overlooking the fact that he's a racist scumbag.
Right. And, like, I frankly think that behavior, like, people doing that, because there are people who do that, makes us look bad. And, like, I've gotten to the point where, like, I consider myself further left to a progressive, and, like, I don't want to be associated with minimalizing white nationalism and white supremacy. Like, those are the far greater threats. Like, yes, again, Democrats are bad, and they have serious flaws, but they, again, to the lesser to evil argument, they are not as evil. Like, one party is literally full of people who are potentially genocidal. Like, you can say whatever you want about a Democrat, but I can't point to a Democrat in office who would, like, kill off people of color in an instant if they had a chance.
I want to say, like, from the lesser of two evil thing, I think that in my mind, yeah, the lesser of two evils, I'm always going to go with the lesser of two evils, right?
Right.
But I think what was happening with the Hillary thing is there was a lot of people that weren't sure who was the lesser of two evils. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a different. I really don't want to relitigate 2016, but I think that's a whole different issue.
Yeah.
When we're talking about, like, you know, an active party that's in charge, and we're looking at senators and congressmen.
Right. And one thing that I think people lose sight of too is that the Democratic Party can change. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Republican Party is just too far gone. They're done as far as, like, any type of, like, allegiance with women, with people of color, anything like that, or, like, modern people, right? Or, like, at least the millennials and younger. They're not even an issue beyond, like, they're not going to get votes from they're not going to be the majority of votes for them. But the Democratic Party is susceptible to change. They're noticing that, you know, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that is substantially more left than the majority of the Democratic Party leaders. They're noticing, like, oh, well, we don't want to lose our seats. We don't want to lose our power, our supposed power. Maybe we should say that superdelegates shouldn't have the first vote. Maybe we should, you know, look for an option for healthcare as opposed to Obamacare. You know, and
I mean, I've heard the argument that the Democratic Party is, like, inherently corrupt, and that's just bullshit, because a political party is nothing more than a vehicle to be used. It's not defined by anything. As long as you throw the other people out that define it, it redefines itself. Like, the Democrats used to be the party of fucking slavery. And then things changed, and the party moved left, and now there's something totally different, unrecognizable from that shit. Like, a political party is just a vehicle to be used. It's a tool.
Yeah. But I think we need to determine, like, because that is the major party, we need to recognize that is a tool that we can now change, that it is a vehicle for change, because we can We can infiltrate that party. We can make it represent us more effectively than it has been in the past. And we're seeing signs of that. It is moving towards that. Now, New York is another issue with voter suppression.
And with all this being said, I still do support people who want to like build up third parties.
Oh yeah. I think ranked choice would be a great thing to have.
Yeah, but you know, the Democratic Party is a vehicle that can be changed. That's it. And there are some people who just want to say like, no, it's inherently evil because of neoliberalism. It's like, well, buddy, like what was in there before neoliberalism was fucking slave owners. Right. I mean, like, which, you know.
And we have to recall too, or remember that, okay, the majority of the people that represent the Democratic Party as it exists today, they're kind of old. They're going to die. Or, I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. Or they'll retire and we'll get some new people, hopefully some new blood in there, that more represent modern society, or I guess the will of the people, if you will.
I want to say on the other end, like the GOP, like they're destined to die out because of, you know, the millennials aren't really on board. But then that sets the stage that the Charlie Kirks of the world are just grifters, because they know this, and they're trying to. They're like, oh, well, then we can get in the ground floor here, and we could create something, because
I mean, Trump is literally funded by so much Coke money.
Yeah.
There are people in the chat
too.
There are people in the chat saying that the Democratic Party cannot be taken, and that just doesn't make sense. Like, that's just a ahistorical view. It has been taken multiple times and reestablished into something else, because it, again, is a vehicle. And if you throw the shitty people out and put new people in, it is a different vehicle.
Right. I agree. I think that we can do that. But I also support building up third parties.
Absolutely. Like, you can do both.
They you know, they would better represent some section of people here and some section of people there.
I think, with that being said, I wish we had something better than the Green Party.
But you know, we do need to build up third parties. We do need to have more parties involved. We can't last in this duopoly, because it's just always going to be this team sport. Then, like, I mean, there's going to be some of that anyways, but I mean, it's always just going to be us and them, and then anyone that doesn't think like us or them, then you know, you're worthless. You're crap.
Yeah.
And so we do. I mean, we do, and then you have to do the twofold thing. You have to support, if you're an independent, you have to support, you know, the people that are trying to take over the Dems, and get the bad people out. And but you have to put your effort into building up third parties, because I honestly don't think, unless we get a couple more parties.
I mean, like, I would love. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I would love to see the Labour Party happen.
So three things actually. The two comments I want to read that are in the chat. If I can get back to them, I messed up. Sorry guys, I lost it. Okay, Citizens United needs to be repealed. Absolutely. That was a devastating decision. We need to make sure that money does not have the same type of corrupting influence in politics. I think public funding of political campaigns would be the way to go. But private corporations need to get the fuck out. And there was another one. So I lost that other one. So, but I'm going to return back to Brett Kavanaugh and get y'all's opinion on this. Do you guys think that he will be put in, like that he'll get enough votes? Because right now I think he will. What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yes, but I think there's a small possibility that Collins and I butcher her name all the time. Murkowski.
Murkowski.
Yeah, Murkowski. I don't know if I said it right that time, but I think there's a chance that they could be pressured. Maybe. I think it's worth a shot.
I don't think Collins is going to change. I don't. I've seen too many people say that. Like it just seems like she is just such on board with the Trump stuff. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be surprising. Frankly, like if he does get confirmed, if he doesn't get confirmed, I'm terrified of what would come. Like, what would replace him? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of
because if he didn't think
bigger that monster they would bring in.
If he didn't think, he would have already backed off and just said, you know what, I can't, there's just too shit around me, you know what I mean? And he could have totally played it that way. He wouldn't have to even admit to it. He could just say, these allegations are false, but it's just too much. It's too much on my family. I'm just going to step down. I honestly think that there's a good chance that they know he's going to get confirmed.
Yeah.
And I think even if he doesn't get confirmed, we'd be fucked either way because they would just bring in a whole new monster.
Well, I mean, the idea is that if he doesn't get confirmed, they do not have enough time to look at another option. And there's a good chance that the Democrats will hold the Senate. At least that's what a lot of things are saying at this point. And so that could mean that nobody's going to get confirmed during these Trump years, or no additional Supreme Court justice will be put into place unless the Democrats approve of whomever is going to come in.
I mean,
this is kind of like their last ditch effort before they potentially might see a flip in both the House and the Senate.
Right. I mean, I can see the Democrats taking the House, but I think it's really unlikely they'd take the Senate.
I do too. I don't see them taking the Senate, but they could become like a, less of a minority in the Senate, if anything. I just don't see that that's going to be an issue. But this is at least prior to the election.
They can get close enough to have Rand Paul, because Rand Paul votes against Trump a lot because of the libertarian thing. So if they get close enough, they might be even not in the majority, but they might be, if they're 49, then a lot of times they're going to have him. So I mean, even if they get to 49, there's a chance that they could hold off getting.
Yeah, but Rand Paul's kind of, you don't know kind of which way he's going to go a lot of times.
He just does.
Which is why, again, they want to keep their definite majority in the Senate because of the flaky Rand Paul, which he actually votes for everything pretty much Trump wants. But so that's kind of the concern that they have. That's why they're kind of ramming this stuff down people's throats right now.
So,
but yeah, unfortunately, I do think he'll get confirmed.
I think he'll get confirmed.
Like with the Beto thing, people go all crazy, Seaman's supporting Beto, and not out there supporting, but I mean, she's still questioning him on things, but she's getting behind him, and because she knows how important that is, that you get that seat. You know what I mean?
Because I don't think somebody like Beto would support Kavanaugh.
Oh no, Beto.
I just don't see that happening.
Oh no.
Ted Cruz will. He'll absolutely do it.
Yep.
And but yeah, so I think that's again was the concern with that they wouldn't have enough time to put someone in at least that's as corporatist as Brett Kavanaugh at any rate, because he's sided with corporations his entire history. If a corporation ever came up, he's always sided with them. He's got some questionable civil rights things as well under his record, where he basically did not side with somebody who was discriminated, who was clearly discriminated against, or anything like that. And so, but of course, the Republican Senate hid that information until the last minute from the American people, which is disgusting, because they know that this candidate can't stand up and justify his record, right? They know that, but they don't care because it's not. They want to make sure that the Supreme Court is as corporatist as possible. Which, by the way, what the fuck is the point of having a Supreme Court then? If they're not going to abide by our laws and uphold laws on behalf of the citizens and people in the United States. But corporations are people. How dare I forget that?
I mean, the Supreme Court, the system in which it's designed around, it's flawed inherently.
It's designed to maintain a certain comfort level, right, for the aristocracy.
I mean, the fact that political presidents, partisan presidents appoint these people, just you shouldn't.
That's something that I can't wrap my head around, Lauren. Is that exact thing? It's okay. Justice is blind, yet partisan. We're going to elect people, not elect, but we're going to appoint people based on partisanship. Though that doesn't mean that justice is blind, does it? That means justice is not blind, and that people decide based on partisan politics.
A judge shouldn't even be able to be involved in either politics. They shouldn't be able to declare themselves as a Democrat or a Republican or any party, because that is not, you know what I mean? Like, that's taking a side. So right. they shouldn't even be. I mean, let their actions speak for what they do and let their decisions speak for what they do, but they shouldn't stand out and say, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I think that's wrong.
I mean, I think that they should be able to say, if they're Republican or Democrat, but I think that really shouldn't be the point. I think that they need to uphold the law outside of political theater.
People shouldn't be choosing these people.
Right.
I don't have a solution for who would, but someone in partisan politics should definitely not be choosing who, gets appointed to the fucking highest court in the land. Absolutely.
Yeah. That has always been a thing that has always boggled my mind about this whole thing. I think, you've got people like, say, Barack Obama, that didn't want to take that stuff necessarily into account by appointing somebody like Kavanaugh to a lower court. Because he's like, he's a Republican, but record is all corporatist.
No, like that. It's not even that. It's like Obama wanted to be friendly with Republicans and get them on his side, and it's like it just shows Obama's political ignorance in that. Like when Obama goes a little bit to the right, it forces the right to go even more right because they can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that was the whole thing with Obama. Is like they weren't giving him anything. He was giving back, but he kept just okay, all right. Well, you know what? I'll give you this judge. All right.
Obama's like the political version of a pushover to the conservatives.
Exactly.
Yes. And let's just be real about that. He did very conservative policies a lot of time. Definitely was very pro-corporate. The only reason they didn't like him was because he was black.
And a Democrat.
But mostly because he was black.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, when Obama was elected, we saw, white supremacists and Nazis have always been around, but we saw them really start their movement when Obama was elected. There's a reason they came out of hiding when Obama was elected. It's because a black man was elected president and they were terrified.
Mm-hmm. Right. And AM2515, that's a weird name. But I want to just say, can we just stop with this whole strength and weakness shit about what a president should do? They should be strong and do all the wars. Okay, let's just stop. All right. If you want to compromise and try to compromise in a civil way, what is weak to you? Okay, because weak to me is a different thing. Weak to me is somebody that is all, you know, try to be a he-man, you know, because I know that they're probably weak as shit underneath all that, like pompous and things like that. You know, what is weak to anybody? It's going to be different from somebody. So let's just throw that shit away. Throw it away. It's unimportant when it comes to a president. A president should be fucking smart, and you know, willing to like sit down and have a discussion, and also not want to immediately default to war at every turn. Should always listen to the people and listen to their desires and what they want. They should also want to secure and strengthen social programs that help the people. That's what a strong president to me does. But, you know, a strong president to like a Republican is Donald Trump doing all these like shitty things. And then, you know, and then more. So, or starting all the wars possible, or threatening nuclear annihilation. That's strength. Like that's the ultimate sign of weakness to me. But yeah,
I mean,
so
just stop using strength or being tough as a qualifier. It's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's bullshit when we should really focus on the issues. Because again, that qualifier means so many different things to different people. It does. So, but one thing we can actually have a debate about is the particular issues at hand. I agree. Let's see. Do we have anything else to add as far as the Kavanaugh situation? Because I think we're all kind of in agreement that he probably would get confirmed.
He's a creep.
He's a creep.
He's a creep, and he's a piece of shit, and he should go fuck himself with a steak knife.
Yeah.
That's my final thoughts.
Hey, you said that about Ted Cruz today too.
Yep.
Well, I think that, you know, Ted Cruz is also a creep.
Yes.
I hate Ted.
Any conservatives should just go fuck themselves with a steak knife.
Okay. That works.
Yeah.
That's a sufficient ending to today's broadcast. Alrighty, so we will be back here on Thursday. I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but we will let you guys know. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. I do appreciate you being here. If you have an opportunity, please check out our Patreon page because we could really use some support. And if you can't donate, please consider sharing our videos with family and friends. We have some good interviews also that you can share that are timeless, basically. They don't matter as far as like with current events, with what's going on today, but it's good informational videos for you guys. You guys, Lauren and Janet, do you guys have anything else to add?
I'm good.
You don't?
Alrighty, so we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye, guys.